Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get the meeting started, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we'll go ahead and call to order, and we'll do roll call up here at the table.
Michelle Binkley.
Christy Van Meter.
Lauren Tice Miller.
Sheila Meggers.
Erica Price.
Sarah Sanders.
Rocky Buznitz.
Buck Ruder.
Kristen Fisher.
All right, I need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Rocky. Is that who said it?
Second.
Second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. All right, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes of the January 20th, 2026 special meeting. Need a motion? Motion by Christy.
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor? 7-0. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 20th, 2026 regular meeting. Motion by Erica. Second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. Sorry, I wasn't looking up. I saw you out of the corner. Sorry. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2026 special meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Sarah. Second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. All right, we're going to start with communications. Bond project updates, Mr. Tucker. Petticord.
All right. This is our first of what will begin monthly updates through summer of 2028 and fall as we wrap up things. There will be a different topic probably every month based off of what's being developed, but I think tonight was we wanted to really spend some time on the schedule, give you guys a brief update. There's been a lot of meetings going on and stuff like that, but we haven't really put a schedule out there in public, and so now it's green. Sorry. We wanted to put it out there. We have met with the principals really within the first couple weeks of getting started and kind of let them know in general when we thought the buildings would go and when they would be done. And then we also, as part of the onboarding process, we had to put schedules out. As part of negotiations for contracts with both the architects and the contractors, we had to put schedules out. So we had to have some pretty good buy-in from the facility committee and then also from the buildings and just in the way that we were approaching this. And so today's our day where we're going to kind of put it all the way out there, and this is what we're going to be publicizing, around the school community with the subcontractors and with everybody. So we'll also go through just real briefly the progress that we've made in the first couple months here and then talk about what the next steps look like. So next slide is a quick update on the progress. So what we've been doing is we've started on the first three, which is the high school and middle school campus. We're kind of looking at those as kind of one job since it's all here as far as who's going to be running those projects from a personal day-to-day standpoint. But they're still going through separate meetings to figure out what their individual scopes are. So we've had two what's called user group meetings. That's the lowest level of decision making. And then we followed that up with two steering committee meetings at each school so far. I'd say they're going pretty well. There's a lot of program verification. So when you run a bond and you have all the conversations that you have for a couple of years when you run up to a bond, there's hey, we think we need this. And now we're going a much deeper cut as far as the information. And so it's really validating, like, okay, we anticipated we needed this many classrooms and this much square footage to accomplish this goal, but when we sit with the teachers and actually start putting names on people's classrooms and where they actually belong, it kind of gives us a clearer picture of where we might be light and where we might be heavy. And so then we start prioritizing some of the other things. So I think you guys are very well aware that your bond had a lot of little miscellaneous projects within each project. And so doing a lot of that prioritizing as far as what each room looks like when it's done, and what rooms actually get touched, because there's sometimes that it can be, hey, this is a much smaller space that needs a whole lot more work, where we can move these teachers into a classroom that is in good shape. And even though it's being repurposed, it doesn't have to be worked on. And so we're trying to be frugal with that and making sure that we prioritize and accomplish the things that need to happen first. And then also, we've just had a meeting today, working together with HTK and Kendall. We're doing some budget tracking. So what we're doing on this one, because there are so many little side miscellaneous projects, is we're doing an evaluation bi-weekly, even as things are changing. So instead of waiting till we get to the end of a design process and then going and doing the estimate, we're asking them to update things basically bi-weekly as they're getting information live, so that we can have a feel as we go through that on how the budget is looking, and so we can update the facility committee on decisions. Because to me, that's all, we're doing that so we can make decisions, because you have to have money at the tips of your fingers so we'd be able to make those decisions. And then also site investigations with hazardous materials, getting testing all lined up. We have confirmed, and we've been doing vetting, that playground and HVAC work at the high school. Our idea there was to tackle the playgrounds because we think it's a big win for the community. We know it was strongly supported. And we have confirmed with multiple folks that there's several different trades that will go out to bid, but we believe that that all work can be done this summer. So we've been pushing really hard on the design and decision-making on equipment, which has just gone very well towards equalizing and creating sort of a standard at each playground of what they will get. And then accounting alignment, been working with Sarah to get all of the budgets set up and ready to go, so that when all the big, you guys are going to start seeing some big pay requests, probably not necessarily right now, but starting this summer. So we've put together a cash flow sheet for her, as well as helping set up the budgets. I owe that to her this week. And then there's some other miscellaneous vendor solicitation, like testing and stuff like that, hazardous material abatement. Timeline, so what you're looking at right here, this is what was put out for negotiations on contracts and proposals. And what it does is purple is design, and blue is the bidding and purchasing phase, and then orange is the construction timeline. So you can see that everything finishes up in 2028, and that's when your big switchover will happen with 6th grade. I think one thing that's important to note here is that we're trying to only be in 3 buildings at a time during the summer to protect the integrity of the subcontractor capacity, the district capacity, and all of our partners that work on your jobs. It's kind of, we've learned that that's kind of a sweet spot. So we're right now in the design in the first 3 purple ones, and they've been cash flow loaded, so that we can see about how much we're pushing through each month, and so that Sarah can also use that information when she's working with Piper Sandler on investments and how those get pulled out. So you can see the playgrounds and some of the other alternates at Shawnee Heights have been pushed up to this summer, which we think is a positive. And the only thing I would say on here is that Tecumseh South has some challenges with regards to its HVAC, and Shez will fit in where it makes sense, whether that's next summer or the following summer. But we think this is a great start. This is for an overall understanding for the schools, so that the schools will know that, hey, my renovations aren't starting till fall, and there will be people on site at my building until the following summer. And so as we are having meetings with the principals, starting to socialize this information to them is helpful. And we give that to them in several different ways. But this has us starting the 2 Tecumseh schools at the beginning of 2028 and wrapping those up that summer. So before I go on to anything else, this is the overall big idea about when these jobs are going to happen. If not, we'll go to the next one. This is a lot of bullet points. I've told everybody this is the year of decisions. There's 3 design phases that you'll hear about: schematic, design development, and construction documents. We're doing 6 packages, and this is sort of getting into the weeds about when we're going to come and ask you guys for money. And so I wanted you guys to be aware of that, because this is all going to happen this year. We're going to be wanting to relocate utilities this summer. That will be outside of all the other major work, but it will be any utilities that make sense to be moved this summer. We're going to go ahead and push those into an early package. And then the gym pre-engineered metal buildings, Those take a while to get, and so as soon as we have a general idea on the size of those and what the specs are for those, we'll be asking for another GMP, guaranteed maximum price, which is a contract amendment that you have a contract right now. These are the amendments that we spoke about last time. And then you'll have a final package for the rest of the stuff on the gyms, because we're starting those early so that we can finish those by next summer. And then, or at the end of next summer, and then the gym final, or the Barryton package, and then the high school and middle school final packages this fall as well. And so those will all happen in this calendar year, so we're pushing hard on design on all of those to get those wrapped up this year. One important thing that we've talked about is there is going to be an estimate update at each package. We did talk about doing some sort of live cost variance stuff, but also we've talked about an overall cost check-in in April. I'm a big fan, if we're going to be asking you guys for money, that we can tell you where we're at overall. So these packages don't have the same completion dates for each stage, right? So they're all going to progress at different speeds. And so we have discussed with HTK and Kendall, where is the sweet spot for doing a all-in, like even though you don't have all the information on one of these packages for that phase, let's do the best we can to read between the lines and have meetings and get an all-encompassing estimate on where we're at. Because you're going to have some that are over and some that are under. So we think that's going to be best in April, and that times out right because it's right before we start asking for the first big chunk of money. So facility committee, that's going to be a big month for decision making. We already talked about what GMP is, guaranteed maximum price. That's when work's bid out to the market. So the reason we're also putting that out there is we want the subcontractors to start getting excited about what's coming out this year, because that's why they book their work for next year. So timelines, obviously playgrounds and HVAC this summer and some utility relocations. The gyms will start in the second half and finish summer of 27. Barryton, same thing, the second half. And the same thing, middle school and high school. You'll already be working on the gyms there, but those concrete companies will be rolling to the next for the new additions at other locations. So you're going to start seeing people moving around this summer, and you're not going to see it stop till summer 2028. So it's going to be at different levels, but work starts this summer, and the rest of it starts in the fall. So just a quick timeline to understand how that year looks like on a timeline. We started on schematic design. We talked about the major estimate update in April, the site GMP that would come right after it, and then you're going to have a whole slew of packages to approve basically from June through October, with seeing the gym work start in the middle of that or towards the tail end of that, tail end of the summer. So we'll have all the safety precautions in place. I think the one thing that I wanted to highlight as well that we talked about with the group the other day is that even though Barryton is supposed to be done by the summer of 2027, sixth grade doesn't move until summer of 2028. So any changes that we make to Barryton that are done by the end of summer of 2027 still have to be applicable for a pre-K through 6th building. So that's a pretty common thing to have to deal with. The good thing is we're adding space. So we can't do any worse. There just may be some tight folks for at least a year. Any questions on this timeline? Yep.
So the major decisions being made in April, are those specifically just for the facility committee, or are those brought to us as a whole?
They will be, the way we've got the committee set up is that they're making most of the decisions, but we would do, so like in that time period, I would suggest that we would come here and say, here's all the plans that we looked at, and here are the options that we've been discussing. What do you think? But essentially, the facility committee will making the decisions that are kind of down in the weeds in April, but their job is to raise it up to your guys' level for anything that is something that needs to be discussed. But we definitely come present it and say, here's what we're doing. You're going to see the plans. Like there will be times where I come do this update where we have Barryton and we go through, here's what we're doing for the SOARS classroom, here's what we're doing at the new addition, and here's why we're doing this because of where art is and how it switches every hour with music and stuff like that. So we'll be walking through that stuff when we get to those time periods.
Okay. And maybe this question's probably better for Erica. Who is on the facility committee? Can you remind us again?
It is Sarah, me, Ms. Meggers, Mr. Hirsch, Micah, and Rocky.
And did we as a board vote to appoint board members to that committee?
We had she sent an email out to volunteer.
Okay.
I did have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I see Barryton. What about north and south? Like, where do they just, because I don't see them up here, where are those, where do you see those falling?
Yeah, this is just for this calendar year is what I'm
Okay,
putting
I
out
see.
here. Those won't start design until
Okay.
the next year, and so I don't put them on here.
Perfect, thank you.
What I would say, the thing with the facility committee also though is that because it is 3 people and it serves at Sheila's request as far as how the committee is organized. If there's ever any questions where somebody wants to dig into more, I'm always available to talk through it.
Any other questions?
Last slide really is what the next round would be. So reviewing options. So there's a handful of options at each stage. And the next time we get together, we'll be looking at what some of those options are and getting some bids in on playground and HVAC, as well as some of the other items. At which point we would probably come, and that's when we would come in here and say, here's some of the options that we looked at for those projects. Here's how they kind of compare to where we started. Yep.
On the playgrounds, you said we're going to kind of use a standard, but then does each school get a slight adjustment?
Yes.
For some options that they have?
The main thing that we identified is the opportunity to provide a new deck system potentially at each, and it seems like there's enough space to find a way to get a new deck system in, which is a large feature, right? And then the other thing was we talked about what accessible playground means. It doesn't just mean can you get to it. We think it means can the kid actually utilize it. And so each playground is looking right now to have a specific set of ground-based activities for it, and then also a canopy. So because it's good for both supervision and also for kids having a place to get out of the sun. So we think those things are 3 nice features, but then we also talked about upgrading and refurbishing a lot of the pieces that are in place that are already in good shape that can be refurbished.
And you're going to come monthly and give us updates on?
Yep, first Monday of every first board meeting of the month. Yep.
Thank you.
So I would think the next week or the next month we would have some graphics to look at about what the plans have been developed. I don't want to do it yet because I have a fresh drop coming on Friday is what I was told today. So, and that's the last slide.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to status of the district. District administrators, we'll start with Mr. Hirsch.
Want to give a little update on hiring. We're kind of in that hiring season starting now. My personal position is going to be interviewed for this week, and so we'll be working on that. Get you guys a person for the next board meeting for my position. Now that we have a high school principal hired, we're going to post all of the openings at the high school. We'll have 3 positions, associate, assistant, and then the assistant AD position. So we'll post all those this week, hopefully interview those toward the end of February. And right now, we've got about 8 teacher positions that are either soon to be posted or posted right now. And fortunately, I start college interview days next week. So we'll be heading to KU in Pittsburgh next week and hit about 6 overall over the next next couple weeks, so we'll start working through that. Those are all interviewed at the building level, so they will be working on those as we get closer. Any questions on personnel?
A question?
Yep.
Do we have any of our board members participating in the interview committees for the administrator positions?
Not at this time, I don't think.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. O'Brien?
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm not going to mess with that then. Special education in the district. We have started working on summer school and extended school year for our special education students and started working on the details for that already. That happens in the month of June, Monday through Thursday in the mornings. And so we're starting to work on that. That is hosted over at Shawnee Heights Elementary School. Also been working on a lot of state reporting. We had maintenance of effort and excess cost reports that were due last month, and those have to do with the spending that comes from local funds and are spent on special education students, and how much in excess of a typical average expense for per student in our district, how much more it costs to provide special education services to our students. Also, we are working on our December 1 data. Remember, that's our count date for special education, and so we're submitting that. They clean that up as the state does verifications. So we're working on that, and hopefully I'll have something for you by next month to give you some statistics on where we're at with numbers of special education students and what kind of services that we provide those students. We have Medicaid data that's due, or reporting that's due the end of this week, and of course always working on categorical aid, which is funding for our teachers and paraprofessionals. Evaluations are due on the 15th, so I'll be working on those for our related services folks, specifically social workers and school psychologists, and maybe an occupational therapist in there this year. We're also working on a policy and procedure handbook. It's always a continual work in progress, but we're updating that as well as an IEP guidance document. And we have professional development on the 16th. Is that the correct date, I think? And all of the special education teachers will be together on the afternoon of the 16th in the community room at Shez, and we will be doing reminders for special education purposes, but also looking at our math intervention that we're piloting this year. So that's what's going on the 16th. And a lot of other little things going. So, projects. Do you have any questions for me? It's a busy time in special education. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Hummer?
Just a couple of updates in the elementary world. Last month, around this time, we had a recommendation to you all for PE curriculum, and I just need you to know that all of that equipment was ordered, received, delivered, and even is in use at some of our buildings, and our sixth graders are especially ecstatic because they are getting to use some of those materials before they go on to middle school next year. So thank you for approving that. Quick science update. On January 5th, we had our elementary science group get together via Zoom. We had unanimous consensus on what resource we would like to adopt for next year. And so each committee now, each grade level group is working on finalizing their curriculum maps and looking at summary report revisions, also planning professional development for us to bring that all to you in April. So just know things are moving quite quickly in my world because I'm popping from grade level to grade level to grade level, but they're working hard with their instructional coaches, and we're going to be really proud of what they're bringing to you in April. Although there is snow on the ground outside, we are planning summer school right now. So at our upcoming parent-teacher conferences, our teachers will have information to share with parents about what programs their students might qualify for to kind of get that interest going and put that information out to parents. So hopefully we can get some commitments. If you remember, at the elementary level, we have Camp Invention that we will offer at each building for our older students. And then we have summer school tutoring for one-to-one or one-to-small group tutoring supports for 30 hours throughout the summer with our teachers. And so we'll be able to offer that at each of the elementary buildings. And unfortunately, we won't have pre-K happening this summer due to grant funding, but we're excited to offer those opportunities. We'll also have extended school year with special education, so we'll just keep going. But we had a planning meeting where we had transportation, food service, all of the parties that we need in order to make that happen. So we're well on our way to being ready when we kick all of those off in June. Last but not least, Dr. O'Brien mentioned February 16th. That is our last day for, as a district, our grade level teams to get together for our math training. So we will have Envision training, which is all about the digital tools that come along with Envision and how to utilize the digital pieces as teachers. And so that will be the focus of that professional development. And then the other half of the day, we have district-wide collaborative teaming. So topics that our grade levels will talk about will be our summary reports, will be curriculum maps. They'll get science updates from our science committees. And then we'll also be talking about technology and the purposeful use of it. So those are currently our agenda items, but we look forward to getting all those teachers for a grade level across the district together so that we can all hear the same message, we can all provide collaboration and feedback to one another, and we're looking forward to it. So what questions or clarifications can I provide? Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bell?
So much shorter than all these people. So to kind of piggyback on the summer school for the secondary level, as a reminder, that looks like our sixth graders, our current sixth graders will come to the middle school and they'll get assigned a locker and they'll practice their lockers and they'll get a really good feel for the building and then also work on math and social skills and ELA skills during that time. So they'll rotate that around, and that's going to be 14 days. They'll do that, and then the last day will be June 18th because the 19th is a holiday, and then they'll be done. So they get about 3 weeks of that there in the month of June. They'll start a little bit there right before the end of May. The high school is more of a credit recovery summer school. That's for students that either need to finish up a unit or retake some tests or actually start over if they're really that far behind in building up some credits so that they can get caught up to graduate on time. So that is done in 4 to 5 classrooms. And then we have all the other fun things like sports camps and driver's ed and all of the other things that we run in summer school, weight training, all those that will be happening. And we are working really closely with Micah to understand the impact of all the things, the bond and the HVAC systems and making sure that we can move things around. I think this summer we'll be in a pretty good spot. The next 2 summers, we'll really have to look at that secondary summer school and maybe make some tweaks or pause it until we can, just depends on what they recommend as far as construction goes and where we can hold those. But we're working on that, but I think there's limited impact for this summer. I did leave with last board meeting telling you that I would tell you how many maps you've approved. And Mrs. Meggers put that in, but in case you missed it, you've approved 225 curriculum maps, which is outstanding. Like, that's so exciting. And most of our curriculum maps are linked, and if you look through, you see way more blue links than you do unlinked items. So we're really getting towards the end. As we wrap up science here, at the secondary level, all 4 cores would be done, and we would then just be finishing up some of the pathway courses and some of those singleton courses that didn't really have a group. They'll kind of get grouped all together. Elementary still has social studies because of where COVID fit and what that group had got done. She still has social studies to work on, but we are in really good shape at the secondary level. Today kicks off testing season. The window for the KELPA test started today. None of our students actually started today, but the window kicked off today. So I coordinate testing schedules with IT, our instructional coaches, our principals, our directors, so that way they know of all of the things happening on each day of the week. So I send that weekly email out so that they know what's going on and they can help troubleshoot and be prepared and not be caught off guard. So this is the first day of that testing season, and I do that every week between now and May. So we have lots going on. And then lastly, I am working on CTE applications and finishing up the audit that just happened for CTE programming. We were selected for a federal audit. So we'll be meeting with the KSTE staff to go over that here next week, and then start doing the application and then asking for the Carl Perkins grant as well. So that is what I'm spending most of my time doing in the last. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
The 6th grade to the middle school, is that
Yes.
open to all 6th graders? There's no requirements to get into that?
Correct.
They'll take
They
as many as they
usually go by recommendation first and fill those, and if there's still spots open, then they cast a wider net. The last several summers, it's been a pretty wide net, like pretty much anybody can do it, can go.
Anybody that wanted to.
We did put in, since it's only 15 days, they did put in a stipulation that you have to be able to be here. Like we would have, a couple summers ago, we'd have kids that could only do 1 of the 3 weeks. And so we didn't let them take a spot anymore. Like you need to pretty much be committed to participate. Our biggest rub is the sports camps that happen at the same time. So kids can't be in both places. So we are able to offer that wider net for 6th grade.
One question. Can you remind us what KELPA stands for?
Yes, Kansas English Language Proficiency Assessment.
All right, thank you.
So it's for our students that learned a different language other than English at birth.
Thank you.
And they take it till they pass it. And then they don't have to do it anymore. And some kids pass it pretty quickly, and other kids it takes many, many years. Just depends on how comfortable they are with speaking incomplete sentences.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kinch.
Good evening. Well, since my last update, a large portion of my work has continued to center around Parent Square and optimizing Parent Square and just making it our primary communication platform. So I've been providing ongoing guidance to both staff and families on how to use the tool, including onboarding articles, step-by-step instructions, explanations on the difference between digest and instant, messaging, and even emergency overrides. Just so you guys know, parents, I send out a notification to everyone who has not registered their account every Wednesday. Just because they haven't registered their accounts does not mean that they're not receiving messages. They will continue to receive messages via email in the digest setting until they register their account and decide to change that. So they still get messages, it just might not be their preferred way until they actually register their account. I've been seeing a noticeable increase in using the platform. I've heard positive feedback from staff, just the extra features that it gives them to be able to use. and contact and engage their families. And then also from families expressing their appreciation to receive messages all in one place. So we're getting there. It's not completely integrated yet, but we are getting there. It takes a lot of time and patience to get everybody on the same page. So we're getting there. I also support HR in their recruitment efforts. I've been doing that a lot recently, and assisting in creating posts and hiring information to get out there so that we can look for positions such as the associate superintendent. I might be in denial on that one. Principal, coaches, other certified and classified openings. I have also seen an influx in helping with messaging, such as for transportation and operations. So we had our weather day, we had our snow day this year. Road construction related messages, I've been assisting in that. Some bus delays every once in a while, but these messages usually are really quick turnarounds, and it's something that you just have to be ready for and know how to get to the right people at the right time. On the storytelling side of things, I've maintained our ongoing district staff newsletter every Friday. I work with Sheila with that. And you should be receiving the all district newsletter here very soon. That quarterly newsletter will come soon. And then I also help some of the schools get theirs started. The high school has been doing every other work for the Thunderbird highlights. Sorry, I almost forgot what that was called. And then they have also recently started using Parent Square to send out their daily announcements. So that's awesome. They are hopping on board with that one as well. I also wanted to share that I've been selected as the president-elect for our CANSPRA. CANSPRA is the Kansas School Public Relations Association. So I'll serve as president-elect this year and president as next year. It's just a statewide professional organization that supports school PR. So it's a really good organization that helps me with best practices, legal guidance, staying in the know of anything coming down the pipeline that we need to make sure that we're communicating or we have on our website or anything like that. I've been in this organization for 8 years and held a position on the board for all of those 8 years, so I guess it's just my time for president. So we'll be doing that. We're currently organizing a conference this spring that will be heavy on learning about the new ADA Title II regulations that are mandated for public school districts for their digital content to make sure that they're accessible. So I'm still learning that stuff. It's something that I've dabbled in for many years, but never really dove in deep. But we're diving in this time, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to make sure that everything is accessible and anybody has a way to consume our content. Other than that, overall, the focus has just been strengthening our consistency, improving clarity, and building systems that make communication easier and more accessible for everyone. Any questions for me?
Congratulations on presidency.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stiegel.
Good evening. So as you know, I run, supervise, manage, and evaluate all the district sites, including all the buildings, all the parking lots, all the grounds, and other duties as assigned. Part of that supervision is I run 4 primary departments, which is our maintenance, transportation, fleet maintenance, and custodial staff. In addition to managing those departments, I'm also, as part of my other duties as assigned, heavily involved in capital outlay and the bond project. I've gotten to see some of you repeatedly as part of the bond project. So as you get more familiar with the bond project, you'll hear a lot about user group meetings, steering committee meetings, facility committee meetings, and board meetings. So I go to all of those for every building. So if you ever have questions, I'm not sure that I'm the guy to answer it, but I'll try, or I'll find an answer for you. Regarding capital outlay, under my umbrella, I probably have 700 to 800 grand worth of projects that I've got to get done this year. Currently, Sheila asked to give you guys an update about kind of what's occupying our time currently. Transportation, the arrow is pointed up. I'm very confident and very happy with the progress that we've made. I realize everyone wants progress to be instantaneous, but we're really working hard and we're really taking some big leaps. We had the Barryton and 69th Street road closure, which was a big project for us to cut our teeth on. As you might guess, that project has a huge impact on transportation, not just for Barryton as a school, but for everybody that passes through there on the way to another school. So happy to report we did a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of work on that. It seems to be going great. So that's a win for us, and we learned a lot. We now have the challenge of the West Edge Road being closed. That one will probably be closed for 2+ months is our best guess. That's another really complicated project because we have a ton of kids that just live west of that and they're really affected by that. It's a big inconvenience, not just for my team, but for every parent that lives over there, because there's no perfect solution when you chop the bottom road off of a zigzag pattern where buses normally run. So, some parents, their students may have to walk, down the street a little bit, which is not what they're used to. Their times may change a little bit here and there. But we've got all those kids routed, and the first day of running all those new routes is tomorrow morning. So if you want to know how it's going, give me a call, and I'll give you an update on that. But we're confident, and we're doing good. I'm proud of the team. So, does anybody have any questions about anything in my world? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments and concerns from patrons? Okay, we'll move on to action items. Business by consent. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Rocky. Second by Buck. All in favor? 7-0. We're going to move on to approve Skyward for cumulative transition plan.
Okay, Sarah's gone, so I'm going to cover this one. Skyward is our financial management system, and they are currently phasing out. They've been saying it's coming for a number of years, and we've kind of held on till the end. But they are phasing out the current platform that we use and moving to something called Q, or cumulative. We have until the end of 2027 to get that process done, but the business office is wanting to start migrating things over. And to do that and get the training and all the assistance to move our current data over, that total is $23,725. So we are recommending approval.
Questions?
Yeah, so it seems like it feels like, maybe it's wrong, but it feels like we went through a whole saga of getting to where we're at, and it took a while to get there. And so feels awful soon to be swapping out. If we're going to be doing a major lift and shift, is this, I guess, the right vendor for us? And then number two, I got several questions here, so I'll start there. And then number two, how much more money is this going to cost us from what we're paying now? And number three, yeah, okay,
Go and I'll write them down.
I'll stop there. I mean, are we hosting this internally on premise? Do they offer a software as a service option so we don't have to do all the maintenance and internal upkeep that is not necessarily free to do either?
I don't know all the detailed answers on that since Sarah's gone. If you want to pull this and we can get some additional information, we can do that. I don't think it's absolutely urgent that it happens.
Okay, it's not urgent. There's a pricing a footnote in there that I'm concerned about, and that is pricing footnote number 1.
Okay.
where it says it'll automatically renew at the then current rates. And so I deal with a decent amount of contracts at work, and I do not like signing anything that says, hey, there's no price cap. So my suggested language of something you guys can come up with that meets it is the current rate, the lesser of, hey, the current rate, the CPI or a max of 5% or something like that. So that way it puts some price protection in us. We're not boxed in when we get down to, because if you wanted to do a conversion, you get into this at 2.5 years from now, and you say, okay, great software, want to keep it. Oh, they doubled the price on us. That's not going to give you enough runway to get out of it. So this at least gives you some, locks in some price protection for the district. So that's my feedback.
And we're good. Sarah's honestly been the one that's worked with them on it, so I don't have all the answers. We can follow up. I do know it's not a voluntary transition. We don't have the option of staying on what we're currently on. We like what we have. It is just being phased out. So we'll get some additional information and we can put it back on the next meeting. And I might shoot a list of emails or email you those questions and make sure we have them accurate.
Yeah, I had very similar questions along those lines because it did take us a while to stabilize on this platform. And I wanted to make sure, like, is this just a name change? Were they completely acquired by somebody else? Are they going to be able to provide the same level of professional development and support that we've had with Skyward, knowing that we also just renewed our Power School contract? I know that there is some overlap in some of the stuff that Skyward had previously done, but because of the data transition, we've just maintained them separate. So I think this stems a lot of questions, and I would actually like to motion to table this to our next meeting.
I can answer part of that. It is staying under Skyward. I'm trying to think if it was 4 or 5 years ago I went to a Skyward conference, and this was already on the table, and there were a number of districts starting to use it at that time. So it originated under Skyward, and I believe it stays under Skyward. But it's just their newer version that they're kind of making us shift to.
So is this just like their accounting piece of Skyward then?
It's all of our finance and business side of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can table it and get some additional information on the contract or get that
Yeah.
fixed.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so motion by Lauren to table,
And I'll second it.
second by Rocky, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, my number one update is always the bond, and with Tucker here, I think he's covered a lot of it. So the one thing he mentioned that the timeline, we've been waiting on the finalized timeline. We will get that shared out with staff on Friday in our staff newsletter. And it really has, we've had, I don't know how many different iterations of that, and it's shifted and tweaked a little bit over time. So we were kind of waiting until we had a final version to share with you, or as close as possible, and then we'll get that to staff this week. And we'll also get that posted on our district website. And then we have a newsletter going out next week to families, so we can put something in there on that. That graphic, we can put it, but we'll do a little write-up too, so that it's a little bit easier to read. I don't know that graphic's real easy if you're not in the process. So we'll get that information shared out, but we wanted to get it as accurate as possible. We know it won't be 100%, and there will be delays and things that get behind or things that get ahead. So, but it's a pretty good timeline. So we will start sharing that. Just a reminder on committees. I put those in Friday notes, and I'll give it a few more days, but I just wanted to remind you we had district leadership team, superintendent's council, and foundation board. And if we get one person for each, it's yours. If we get more than one, we'll just draw names. So, or I'll touch base with you and say, hey, we have 2 on this. Do you want that one? So we'll figure that out. But just wanted to remind you, shoot me an email if you're interested in any of those committees. And those are just for the remainder of the year. We do relook at those in July, but we had open spots with 2 board members leaving. And then on the strategic plan, we have a survey. KASB created a portrait of a graduate survey. That will start going out to staff here at the end of the week, and then families. It'll be in the district newsletter. We're going to send it to middle school and high school students, and staff, parents, oh, and community. We're going to post it on on any social media. So that is going to get shared out pretty heavily starting the beginning of next week. And then we do have the focus groups. The one is coming up next week, and that involves all the names that you guys turned in several months ago and principals' recommended names. They have all been invited. So that's a mix of parents, staff members. So it'll be that other voice. We've met with the board and admin. I do want to just throw this out so we're clear. You're welcome to come to that, but if we can stay at 3 or under, it wouldn't need to be a special board meeting. So that would kind of be our recommendation. Also, if we have 7 board members and 20-some admin, we don't want it to overpower that group. We want that group to feel like they have a voice, and then their information comes back, and it comes back to this group, the board and the admin, to work with after that. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. If you guys are good with that and you're interested in, we could do up to 3 people. If you want to, I can shoot an email out, and we could take up to 3. If you feel like all 7 should be there, then we'll just need to make that be a special board meeting. But there would be 2 focus groups. One is the 9th of February, one's the 23rd. It is intended to be heavy community and parent input, and staff members. So that's the intention of it. And I'll send an email if we get up to 3. You're welcome to come kind of listen in, join in, but we're really wanting that community input at that point. So, question? Okay.
I have a couple. We'll start with the focus groups, since that's what you last talked about. Will you be providing any kind of report to us afterwards, rather in lieu of us attending? Can we just get a report of what was discussed, like minutes or something?
Absolutely.
And then also, will you provide us with the list of those who are attending the focus groups or participating in the focus groups? Okay. And then on the board, on our committees that we have had, I know historically when we have assigned those, we have then voted on them. Can you remind me, did we change that? What was the reasoning for that?
We did because of a legislative change
That's
last
right.
year.
Okay.
They became open meetings, and if they weren't truly functioning as an advisory, they recommended they become superintendent or admin committees, and then we take volunteers.
Advisory, and that
Versus-
the recommendations of the committee is action that should be taken by the board? Okay.
Yes.
I would also throw out there that if anybody is interested in being on the safety committee, I would be willing to give up my seat.
And officially, it can change to July, but if you want to throw it out, I'll put it in an email too. Okay. I think the conversation was they weren't really functioning as advisory, and with that legislative change, we just made them, we pulled them off of the actual board meeting and put them in an email. So I'll send one more email with the safety committee included. Okay. Thank you.
Could I ask you very quickly, seeing Tucker's schedule about the improvements with the bond project, I know let me back up, before I was a board member, served on the steering committee for that, and one of the schools that was most desperately needing some space was Barrington. So seeing that they're going to be holding those 6th graders until really the end of bond construction is a little concerning for me. Is there any plan to kind of provide them some more immediate relief and some space? I know those classrooms are going to get built, and that's going to help them, spread out a little bit, but do we have any kind of game plan for shifting any of our resources or anything like that to give them some more immediate relief?
We can't create additional space at the moment. They will have those rooms done before the transition, like a year before, so that will alleviate quite a bit. They'll have some additional space coming there. But on the resources, they do have a proportionate number of additional staff in the building. So they're not working with an increased number of students and a comparable number of staff. They do have the additional staff to help support.
Thank you. Yeah, when I say resources, I meant building resources, not staff resources.
Okay.
But to your point, yes. I just, some of we've all been there. We've seen the things happening in the hallways and that kind of things. I just wanted to know if possibly we had considered if there's I know that gets touchy too, but if there's a better place to house some of those things, even if it's a building that does have a little space or something like that, if it's going to be a 3-year range for them to really get to exhale, Just didn't know if we broached any of that.
We don't really have another place to put students right at the moment. We have students working in small spaces kind of like that across the district, so this will help alleviate some of that when it's done. South, for example, is right at 500 students as well. So it's cozy in a lot of different places, so this will help alleviate space over time, but it is going to take us a little bit. Becky Hummer you want to add some things? Thank you. No, and last year's sixth grade was big at Barrington. So they had a big fifth and sixth grade last year when you would have toured. And that sixth grade that was there last year is now the seventh grade. So that helped a little bit. And then the sixth grade moving on will help a little bit as well.
Thank you. Having had
Good
kids
point.
at South, I can imagine what South looks like with 500 kids, so I get that point
It's
too.
under, but it's
It's close, yeah. And it's been, yeah, I get that. I just, again, seeing that in Barrington was a little eye-opening, I guess I'll say. And so I just would have liked to have seen them get some, priority relief. And so that helps to know that their sixth grade class moving out is large.
sixth grade, and there's a reason that elementary was picked first. They're on the front end of that project.
All right, we'll move on to questions and comments from board members.
I want to apologize to Sheila, and I said a prior poor example here during this meeting of surprising you with some questions here today, because I did not, I typically will do my homework on Friday, and I didn't get a chance to do it until today, and I should have not surprised you. That's for a birthday, not for a board meeting, so I should have gotten you those questions in advance, so you were maybe prepared to answer those in the board meeting. So my apologies, Sheila.
It is okay. I just apologize. I didn't have the answers, and Sarah is out. So we will get you answers. We're good with that.
Sheila, do we currently have a plan to just kind of communicate out like where we're at on budget-wise? Like, I want to make sure that we're real clear and at a very high level, just to make sure our community knows like what we're spending and how we're spending it and what those dollars are. Is that kind of like
With
in
the bond?
plan? Yeah, with the bond.
Yes, we have not spent much of anything yet, but once we do start, we will, we have to kind of balance that a little bit. I mean, I don't really want to do line-by-line spreadsheets because that will overwhelm people. I mean, most people aren't going to want to read that, but yes, a total project amount, we will definitely track total and where we're at on things, and if we're over or under where we're at, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a list, and I can send them to you because this is more of just like an information request for the upcoming or the next meeting. But first I want to ask, following up on the facility committee piece, I would just quickly did a search in my email, and the only thing that I can find was about an email that you sent out telling us who was going to be on the facility steering committee, but that was from December of '24, so that would have been prior to the bond passage. I'm not finding another email asking about, so did that just like
It
like,
went out,
just-
we mentioned it at a board meeting, and then I followed up and sent it out. I'll go back and find it.
Okay, and then my question then, based on our previous conversation, they are going to be making decisions that are then going to be brought to us. So how is this not an advisory committee that would actually need board approval for appointing board people to?
I think we talked about it at a board meeting and decided, I think we sent out for volunteers, but it would be about advisory on that as far as that
Okay.
would go.
So,
I think we just decided to take volunteers. I can't remember why we didn't appoint. The purpose mainly, you want to add in?
No, I remember the volunteer part. I don't remember.
I'll go back and find the email. But we
Okay,
did send an
yeah.
email because people responded. The purpose of it, to structure it that way, was simply because we are so in the weeds. We will bring big decisions once we kind of have some ideas to the board to get input, make sure everybody's okay. But it just was so many hours in some of those meetings that it wasn't practical. We weren't going to be able to move very quickly if we didn't. We structured it honestly very much like Auburn Washburn did.
Okay, did they appoint theirs or from the board? And I don't expect you to know
I
these
don't know off the
answers.
top of my
Sorry,
head.
I'm not intending to put you on the spot here. I'm just curious how that structure worked. Because when, I know you've mentioned the facility committee, and I was just in the mindset of what we had prior to the bond, and it wasn't until Tucker was giving his presentation that, no, you all are making much bigger decisions that are going to be brought to us that we as the board have to vote on, and so that seems like it would be structured differently to me. And so the other question that I have is why 3? Because really the only other committee that we have 3 board members on isn't really a committee, it's negotiations, and we appoint to negotiations, which I think we needed to vote on the last meeting, and we did not. So I just have some concerns about there being 3 people, because we are advised by KASB that we are not to talk to more than 3 people. And so if the 3 of you are on this committee and you talk to one other person, you are violating COMA. And so I just have some concerns about that. So if we could do some additional research into this, that would be great, because I have some heartburn right now. Okay. So I have additional information requests, and if it would be helpful, I can put this into an email for you. But I would like, it's been a while since we've gotten any kind of update on the drug testing at both the middle school and the high school. So I would like, I don't know, I can't recall us getting an update on this at all for this school year. So if we could get that, how many have been tested, what the outcomes have been, and if it's possible, if we could get the demographics, so at least, grade level, gender, and race if we have them. Would also like to know the cost that we have incurred with doing those. Similarly, much like we've gotten before, along those same lines, what searches have been conducted, and this includes with the drug dogs, but also without. Again, how many, what were the outcomes, the demographics. Again, this was another report we used to receive somewhat frequently, and then it has stopped, and that is, various incidents, so like in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions, at least at the middle school and the high school. And then,
I'm going to ask you a question
Yes.
on those last 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where those came from? The searches and the in-school and out-school?
no, they provided us with reports in writing, I think, at one point, because it was included in, I can't remember where it was included, but at one point we were getting them quarterly. Do you remember that, Rocky?
I remember the incidents in school, like fighting and that type of
Yeah.
thing. I remember that being reported on by Mr. West. The other items I don't recall. So.
I know, I think the last time, we didn't get one this year when you did the communities that care survey stuff, but I think in the past we may have gotten the updates with the communities that care survey. But I feel like prior to that, it was more often than that. I feel like we got it at least twice a year.
I feel like when we were having the, kind of that flare-up of
Well, yeah, for the
in-school
incidents,
fighting
yes.
and the videos and that, we did receive the information more frequently, but I think since that's subsided, we probably haven't, but we can get it.
Yeah, that would be great. And then kind of along those lines, any of the policies that we have, either in board policy, which I can look some of that up, but I would like to know the board policy or the handbook policy that we typically follow pertaining to searches, as well as what is the standard operating procedure for determining a search of persons or vehicles. So what initiates the search, who is present, at what point are parents notified? Is the procedure different for a minor versus an 18-year-old? And then the last question that I have is, again, this is information request. Where is our board policy or our procedures pertaining to the expulsion appeal process? Where do I find that?
It's a board policy.
Okay.
I can double check handbook, but
Yeah,
there is a
yeah.
board policy on it.
That would be perfect. If we could, and if that could be provided to all of us, because that was another question I had, is in the past, when anyone had asked a question, usually it would then get shared with the rest of us as what the answer was. And I have recently discovered that I'm not reliably getting my email, so I wasn't sure if that had stopped or if nobody's asking questions, but if
We're
we,
starting
if
to
we
get
could
more
get that-
questions. And actually, a lot of the questions you've already asked, I've addressed with another board member to get the answers on, literally
Oh.
today. So, but I haven't received a lot of questions that really needed to go all out to the entire board, but as they come in, like you're requesting, they'll go out,
Okay,
for sure.
yeah. That was all I had.
I have a question on what you just said on when board members ask questions. I have been on the board now 2 years, and I have never received an email with, these are questions board members have, here are the answers.
I don't know that
So
I've
if
gotten a
they've
whole
been
lot.
sent out, then I have not ever received them. And there has been times I've come to a board meeting and we even had to table something because a board member asked questions that we needed to seek an attorney, but we were not told what that question was. So
We will do a
I
better
might be
job.
missing some.
I think
if
I've
that
sent a
seems-
few, but we haven't had a lot. I'll add to that. A lot of times they'll come up 5 minutes before a board meeting, and so we try and just get it in the conversation
Okay.
and try and answer it as part of it.
I'm missing them too if they're being sent out.
A lot of
I've
them are
never
kind of
received
last
them.
minute, and we try and share them at the board
I'll
meeting.
out myself as being the person asking lots of questions right now, so I promise to keep doing that, so you'll have lots
I
of things
wasn't
to.
gonna out anybody.
It's all right. I like to know all the things. So plan on, I guess, Erica having lots of things to tell you that I want answers to. Not
And
for-
maybe if we had a deadline of when we needed to ask those questions, so then it could be sent out to everybody in advance. I don't know, but
And I should clarify, most of mine are like, how does this work? Because there's a lot of, there's a learning curve to joining you guys that have been here for 100 years. And so,
Well, and
So,
I
yeah,
had
so-
a note to myself when we last got the communities that care survey. I was like, oh, wait, we haven't seen that data. I need to request it, and then kept forgetting it. So that's why it's here. And I thought it fit in with my other thoughts that are also somewhat pertinent.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we're going to move on to the 2026-2027 school calendar draft.
Okay, this is the draft for next year. It mirrors what we have this year with one exception. Like the start of the school year, conferences, Thanksgiving break, all of that is very comparable. When we get to winter break, because of the New Year's Day holiday on the Friday, that was a work day this year, and so we still have 2 weeks off there, December 21st through January 1st, but December 21st, well, it's not really off, it's a work day. That work day was on that Friday in January this year. So we just flip-flopped, I guess I'm saying this. We have 2 weeks there at winter break. The work day went from the very end to the very beginning. And that has been a flex work day for staff. And then otherwise, it looks very comparable. We are done with school on at that third week of May, and we have a snow day there at the end, but otherwise it mirrors what we have this year. So I'm happy to answer questions on that.
All right, we'll take a look at that. Oh,
sorry, really quick. One question. Promised I'd keep doing it, guys. On April 16th, just how we've got that date colorized with the black background and then kind of that burst icon over top of it. And then looking at May 21st, are those supposed to be formatted the same, or is that, I only ask because the 16th of April called my attention. I thought it was a super special day, and looks like it's a snow makeup day, which is also true of May 21st. So I'm thinking maybe we just got that one or the other not formatted correctly, or am I totally off base?
May 20th is a teacher workday, and it is the last day of school.
Sorry.
So the only thing that would happen on the 21st, I mean, we can color it, but they're done.
Okay.
They're done on the 20th unless we have a lot of snow, and we would have to use that.
So
And then we
usually-
would bump it.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Usually, if we have a snow day that we have to make up, the first place we go is the 16th.
Got
So
it.
it's off. We have the day, our students have the day off on the 16th unless we have a snow makeup day.
Okay.
Which
Leave it
is why there's two
Yeah.
things for the legend, on there.
Perfect. Like I said, the 21st is noted the same way, but I get it now that it's past the last day of classes, so students weren't going to be there anyway. So that makes some sense.
We can double check and see if that was colored this year. I think it looks just like this, but we'll double check it.
I'm sure it's me overthinking it. It's really not that big of a deal. I just wanted to understand for myself. Thank you.
They're out. Yep, they're out on the 21st.
All right, we'll move on to KASB policy updates.
Okay, I was going to project these since we have two new people, but it looks like it disconnected. So I'll just talk you through these. If you're following along, I would say start on page, actually, I'm going to just reconnect that. Maybe. We're going to actually start on page 5. The table at the beginning is kind of a summary. We have 10 policies in here that have some recommended updates and then a couple forms that are attached to those. And so I'm starting on page 5. It's not going to connect, so I'll just talk you through it. BCBK is executive session, and the parts, for those of you that are new, all of this is currently in place. The part that is the recommended change is in red. And so what that says, they had a little bit of trouble with people recording in executive session. And so all this says, it is officially illegal to record in executive session, and that the school board or administration can actually press criminal charges. So that's the new addition for that one. Unless it's required by like a student disciplinary appeal, and then recording can happen. But otherwise, we can't go back into executive session and someone's just recording. The next policy is BG, which is memberships. And this just says that we can be a member of KASB, which we are. They've crossed out, if we're a member, then we can also join the National School Board Association. So we are not currently a member of the national one. I did look that up, and we haven't been for a number of years. So I don't know that this policy does a whole lot. It doesn't hurt anything. But that's the change on that one. By the way, if you have questions about these as we go, they're fairly minor updates, but just you're welcome to ask as we go. IHF is graduation requirements. And this cleans up a little bit of wording there at the beginning. Says students must earn 24.5 academic credits. The 24.5 is what's in our current policy. The part that is underlined then is meant to be something that we don't have to update each year. So if the board were to adopt a new requirement, it is just saying that would, let's say you adopted something tonight, that new requirement would go into place for next year's 9th graders. So we don't have to go back in and stay beginning with the class of. The next one, IKB, is controversial issues. And it is saying that teachers need to make sure that they are following the curricular content with controversial issues, or that the curricular content stays the main focus, and they are discouraged from expressing personal viewpoints during that discussion. So they can have a discussion on controversial topics, but they need to remain neutral. Human sexuality and AIDS education. This policy is removing in the title and then throughout the document and on the form attached. It is removing AIDS. I think that was probably worded in there back in the 80s or 90s, and now it is just covered in sexually transmitted diseases. And so you can see that every reference to AIDS has been removed. And the following page is just the form that goes with that policy. IKD is religion and curricular or school-sponsored activities that parents can opt out, and we need to make sure they're aware that they can opt out. The following policy, and there's the form attached to that. That has also been updated slightly. The following policy just adds some additional wording on that, but that parents can opt out of anything for religious reasons. It goes against their religious teachings. The other big part of that policy, I think is right at the end. If a parent, if a class is required by the district for graduation or by the state, a parent cannot opt their child out of an entire course if it's required to graduate. So they can opt them out of a unit or a section, but not an entire course.
I have a
Questions on
question.
that one? Yes.
So does this policy then require our educators to know every possible nuance of religions that they could potentially be in contradiction of?
It sounds like that. Our thought, we talked about a little bit, was maybe to include it like an enrollment with the opt-out. We have some other opt-out things. They would have to list the topic because otherwise we would not know exactly what would apply to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my other question, was like, are we allowed to inquire with families at the beginning of the school year of what would be contradictory to their religion?
We believe so. Like if they said this topic would not be acceptable, then we would get that to that teacher. We'd have to share that.
Okay, because it also says, so under activity, it says direct exposure to assigned reading material, whether read to or by the class or assigned to the student for independent consumption. So if we have a teacher who chooses a book to read that features 2 same-sex characters and did not get permission ahead of time, what happens? Or reads a book about children getting vaccinated.
The parent would have to opt out ahead of time. I mean, they'd have to, we have all of our curriculum posted, and then we would provide, like if we provided the form in advance, like at the opt-out at the beginning of the year, they would need to list topics, so.
So, but this hinders spontaneity of just choosing a book to read aloud in class. Yes? Right, which is most of my concern, is how is this going to damper our elementary teachers? Can you talk into a microphone, and for those who are, I'm sorry. I want to make sure those who might be following along can hear you.
We, obviously, we want it to have those spontaneity. Yet on the other hand, we do know, because of the climate that we are currently in, it is our role to preview materials before we put it in front of them. So many books, there are not a concern, like the books that we're purchasing via our school libraries or for our classroom libraries, there is no concern there. They can pick any one of those that they want up, and typically you're not going to see one that has an issue or a top topic like that. But beyond that, it is up to the teachers to preview them before they're sharing them with kiddos.
I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, if we have a book where they are eating pork, is that considered, like how minute of detail does this require our educators to be thinking about and you all as you are reviewing these materials? Because something as simple as eating pork may not register with us, but if a student is exposed to it, they're reading a book and it's read aloud, and well, that's contradictory to my religious beliefs, what does that do?
It has been common practice in our district that parents that are that sensitive to making sure my kid is not exposed to these things are communicating. They're making sure that the principals are aware that I don't want my kid exposed to X, Y, and Z. And then that is then shared with the classroom teacher. Usually, we find if a parent is sensitive to a certain topic and they weren't aware, especially if it's a read aloud library book or whatever, they'll come to that conclusion. They'll share that with the building principal, and then they make me aware of that, and either Mrs. Hummer or the principal would say, if that is something, that's something we want to know about, and we can do a better job in making sure that here on out, we know that about your kid. We can't dream it up, like they have to do some communicating back and forth. And so our librarians and our teachers at parent-teacher conferences, our classroom teachers are all doing things to say, here are the kinds of things we're doing, here are the books we're reading at the middle school and the high school. We have our curriculum maps, all of that. And we would just encourage families that if reading about a character that has a headdress or has they could be concerned about whether the character's eating meat or whatnot. Like, we just can't prevent everything, so we just would encourage families to communicate proactively at the beginning of the school year, if at all possible, so that principals and classroom teachers can make adjustments ahead of time. But if we missed something, they didn't realize that was going to be a sensitive thing, we would definitely make note of that and communicate that on forward, and remind families that as they get new classroom teachers, it would be really good for them to advocate and communicate that, because we don't want any intention. We aren't purposefully trying to offend anyone. And so we just need to communicate that with families.
So then also at the secondary level, and I know they can't opt out entirely of a state required class, but I'm just thinking biology. Is there a limit on the number of alternative assignments that can be provided? I'm just trying to think of, like, I mean, this is science, so like, how do you provide an alternative lesson to genetics?
There are way more topics than we can cover in biology, and so if that is the case, then there is no documented, you have to do 90% in order for it to count. But we would have to have the ability to provide some alternate topic in biology. There does have to be some sort of essence of the class in order for them to count, especially for a credit-bearing class that's a required course, like biology, for example. So we would just have to navigate with that family to make that happen.
Thanks.
And Lauren, I know our experience at the high school in the honors English classes, the teachers do send home something to the parents saying, these are the books we're going to read. They may be controversial. You can opt out. So
Yeah,
they do.
we approved that in the curriculum map.
Yeah. And as we approach the science curriculum, that'll be something that I will talk with them about, is to hit the highlights of the topics in their syllabus to give parents a heads up so that they can communicate or ask for clarification. Same way with the health curriculum. There are going to be some kids that parents feel like they don't want the human sexuality part. We opt them out of that. There are some that don't understand what they're opting out, and then when Mr. Urick goes through, or Mr. West at the teen topics level at the high school, they go through every unit, like, this is what we're covering in this unit, here's the book. Both buildings have an extra copy of the health book so that they can walk through with a parent. Anyone wants to come in and view it, they can. And you know, we're trying to put in steps to help that. And most of the time, once parents know what it is, then they're fine.
Any other questions? You look
questions
like
on
you're
that
going to ask a
policy?
question. You good?
Good on that one, okay. There's a couple more policies. Okay, JDDC is bullying. They changed Kansas State Department of Ed to KSTE. They also, because they feel like this is covered by a statute, somewhere else in policy and by statute, under sexual bullying or harassment, they are recommending removing cultural awareness, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation. This would not change anything we do in practice because we protect all kids. We are not okay with bullying. So this is one that is just a recommended one from KASB. It would not change what we do in practice. So
Yeah, this was another one that I had questions about. I mean, it's less that you can answer. And so, like, can we contact KASB to get more rationale as to why they're recommending this change? Or is that something you or one of you would need to submit? Because I don't understand this change. I mean, I can venture a guess, but
I'm happy to contact them and get verbatim. They feel like it's covered somewhere else, is the technical answer in the description, but,
Yeah, because
happy
narrowing our
to get-
definition of bullying is not really something I'm inclined to support.
I'm happy to get a response from him, send it out.
That would be great, thank you.
This is the form, it was not adjusted. Adult students, this is adult education. Basically, it's saying that they are encouraged to attend high school classes, and times have changed a little bit, and so it just says complete the credits required to attain a high school diploma, determined with administration. So this represents more the online and virtual options that students have today. Visitors to the school. This was a policy, I feel like in July, but it was off-duty law enforcement. The thing we approved at that time was that they can come into schools and we couldn't request their personal information such as address, email, phone number. And we also couldn't have them wear anything like a sticker that identified them as law enforcement. That's all still in place, but it also adds that the school can request to see identification showing that they are law enforcement. And then that's the end of them. So no action needed tonight. I'll follow up on the KASB question. Any others? We'll bring those back next week, but I'll follow up on that question and get a response out to everybody.
Actually, I'm sorry, this just popped into my head. Does this cover, this law enforcement officer, is that inclusive of ICE agents? Because they are technically not law enforcement.
No. This is referring to if it's like a parent coming in to like visit the building, see their kid. ICE agents would fall under, if they're coming in to talk to a student or visit with a student, they fall in under a different policy, and we would keep them in the office and request ID, and unless they have proper documentation. We also would contact parents immediately. We actually just, since you're bringing that up, we just reviewed all of our ICE procedures with district admin. They are reviewing that with buildings. We've had stuff in place, but we do have board policy that covers that. We will be completely separate. This is referring to like parents coming in or, but the answer is no, not ICE agents.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think that's our last agenda item. We do not have any executive sessions tonight. I guess we need a motion to approve. To adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Rocky, second by Christie, all in favor? 7-0. Thank you.